Good evening and welcome to tonight's Undaunted, bringing into the news on church stories. I am Oyin Opala. Let's begin. Today's news highlights the continued complexities of the Ambazonian War, a conflict now in its eighth year, driven by the southern Cameroons' enduring quest for independence from Cameroon. This prolonged struggle has seen the emergence of various factions and militias, some of which are allegedly proxies for the Cameroon's government, as observed by the International Crisis Group. The intricacies and dynamics of this conflict have contributed to a climate of instability and distrust, further complicating peace efforts. In a pivotal moment, Dr. Sako, president of the government of Ambazonia, delivered a powerful statement at a press conference in Washington, D.C. on the 4th of October 2024. Dr. Sako emphasized that any future negotiations between Southern Cameroons and Cameroons must be premised on equality, harking back to Southern Cameroon's co-equal status from 1961. Before the nations contested upon the union with the Republic of Cameroon, his remarks underscores the Ambazonians' leadership's demand for fair recognition in any talks aimed at resolving the conflict, signaling that the parties to peace must respect Southern Cameroon's autonomy and its right to self-determination. Meanwhile, as President Sako used last week's press conference to share the Ambazonian story and offer clarity to curious journalists from across the globe, the colonial government of La Republic of Cameroon is orchestrating a massive crackdown on media houses and journalists ahead of its presidential elections next year. This sweeping repression of press freedom signals growing unrest within the country, casting a shadow over Cameroon's ability to handle both internal dissent and international scrutiny in the lead up to the elections. Now, before we get into the full briefings of Undaunted tonight, we'll get the prime headlines.
Stand with Ambazonia. Empower ABC Amba TV. We are calling on Ambazonians around the world to unite and uplift ABC Amba TV, Ambazonian Broadcasting Corporation. In this critical time of war, ensuring the station's survival is more important than ever. But what does ABC Amba TV truly represent for Ambazonia?
At the heart of Ambazonia's war of independence, ABC Amba TV stands as a beacon. Years of recolonization, annexation, and French Cameroon's oppressive occupation of the southern Cameroon's Ambazonia have led to our exclusion. Our identity was hidden, our history distorted, our sovereignty denied. Queen of England is aware that the British Southern Cameroons were never a colony under France.
Since its inception in 2018, ABC Amba TV has been our lifeline.
Months of diplomacy have failed to resolve the crisis as fear grows over an imminent Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Our work in the dark is our chance to tell our stories to the world, to give voice to the voiceless, and broadcast the truth of our struggle.
We are serious about executing this revolution.
It has become a vital arm of our government in wartime, making diplomacy achievable and showcasing our untold stories.
ABC Amba, you guys know how important ABC is for this, our quest for international recognition.
Your donations can make a world of difference. Every bit of support helps keep our stories alive, our presence known, and our fight in the global conversation.
The moment they notice that we are no longer on air, they think that, oh, maybe La Republique has succeeded. This is about Ambazonia. One thing we must always remember.
Where would we be without ABC Amba TV? Let's ensure we never have to find out.
A revolution is a temporary state of insanity. to bring about sanity.
Mobilize, donate, stand with Ambazonia. Donate to ABC Amba TV.
Together, let's write the next chapter of our history.
It is better to light the candle than to curse the dark.
Support ABC Amba TV campaign. Ambazonia Independence, voice for the voiceless. Mobilize for change.
Here are the prime headlines for tonight. Equality must be the foundation of Ambazonian crisis talk, says Dr. Sako. Indian Colonial SDU recognizes insecurity and bans circulation of boats. Tonight on Undaunted, we'll take a look at CDC workers protesting in Tiko over unpaid salaries of 22 months. Meanwhile, La Republique de Cameroon launches a crack on journalists at the eve of La Republique de Cameroon's presidential election. On the African scene, tragedy in Zambia, mine collapse claims lives, while Harry steps up media presence as election day draws near. Let's get the news in full briefings. The lingering Ambazonian war in Cameroon has prompted Dr. Sako, president of the government of Ambazonia, to emphasize the imperative of equality in negotiations. During a press conference in Washington, D.C. on October 4th, Dr. Sako underscored the necessity of recognizing Southern Cameroon's equal status of its 1961 standing. Let's get that view.
Negotiation. That negotiation, we should trust that if we can sit, we will have a solution from the table. The only negotiation that will make sense and the only common sense resolution that will make sense is one that is based on the principle of equality. We have to meet La Republique as equals before a solution can proceed. Because in 1961, we were equals. Of course, that's what the UN resolution said. A federation of two states of equal status. So let them explain to us what equality meant, differently from what I know. And then what has happened to that equality? That La Republique can suddenly give us something. Or we take it or we don't take it. So moderate, come and take this. You are not moderate, well, I can give you this. I cannot give you this. Where has the equality gone to? La Republique du Cameroon Parliament passing a resolution and telling us that this is the way to go? No. We don't have legitimate representatives of the people of Southern Cameroon in that foreign parliament since the restoration of our independence in 2017. We don't. No elections have taken place. We don't have. They cannot impose on us. And indeed, that's the parliament of the Republic of Cameroon that was there before we joined it. Let that solution be the result of a table dialogue or negotiation that puts the two of us on the same pedestal, then we talk.
Oh, well, the Ambazonian War, spanning years, has been marked by the Southern Cameroon's quest for independence or greater autonomy. The conflict has spawned various factions and groups and militias, with some allegedly serving as proxies for the Cameroon's government, according to International Crisis Group. But we know the truth. The war has ravaged the region and the country in whole, resulting in thousands of deaths, widespread displacements, grave human rights abuses. Previous efforts to resolve the crisis have been unsuccessful. The 2019 talks, mediated by Switzerland, but ultimately stalled. What about the Grand National Dialogue of 2019? Failed to implement any recommendations, but in all, Dr. Sako's press conference key points are equality in negotiation that he highlighted clearly, stating that Southern Cameroon deserves equal status. Let's talk about legitimate representations. Of course, you know that Cameroon's parliament doesn't genuinely represent Southern Cameroon's plight in any way. True representatives, only active resistors, have the right to decide on solutions. And that's what Dr. Sako is saying. He also said that there should be definition of Southern Cameroons. True Southern Cameroonians are those fighting for their rights. And so there should be definition of Southern Cameroons. So far, analysts emphasize the need to address the conflict's root causes, which can be traced down to historical grievances, cultural differences, and political representation. Dr. Sako's stance is resolute. Either we have a free Ambazonia and a free La République du Cameroun, or La République du Cameroun cease to exist. The international community must prioritize equality and legitimate representation to facilitate a durable resolution. Equality, equal status is the hallmark of tonight's Undaunted. We have our in-house analyst, Dr. Barrister Mbeseha, I beg your pardon. He's in the house tonight, and Barrister Mbeseha would do us well to emphasize on equality, equal status, which is what Ambazonians are seeking for, equal status. Barrister Mbeseha, nice to have you here tonight.
Well, thank you for having me once more. You see, when President Sako talks about equality, he's talking international law about nations. Nations are equal in status. And what does that mean? It does not mean equality in population. It does not mean equality in size. It does not mean equality in the armed forces or the economy. It requires the economy of a people, the equality of a people against the other. Let me illustrate this. For example, we all know that the United States is a very powerful country. It is large. It is the most powerful country in the world. But as a nation, they are equal to Equatorial Guinea. They are just equal. Equatorial Guinea is not even up to a city, the city of New York, not even top of Baltimore. It's not up to a city here. But they are equal. And that equality is demonstrated at the United Nations. If you go to United Nations Plaza, you find national flags flying there. The flag of the United States takes the same level with the flag of Equatorial Guinea. The flag of Nigeria, the largest African country, takes the same level with the flag of Sierra Leone, or any other small country. And so that is equality in status. The status of a nation is not different from the other. They're equal, even at the United Nations. A vote is a vote. United Nations, the United States, for example, has one vote. Cameroon has one vote. Any other country member among the 192, 93 members are equal in status. So that's what equality means. But when President Sako says we shall be meeting on the basis of equality, is that his invention? Is that his creation? No. The state of Ambazonia, called the British Southern Cameroon, is something born out of the United Nations resolutions. It's born out of international conventions, not something imagined by some king in Bola, some fond of Basso, or some king in Manfred. No, it is born out of international law. And the equality status, the equal status of Southern Cameroon is well defined and properly interpreted in the United Nations resolutions. And so President Sako is not inventing anything. The last of those resolutions, which we have sung all the time here, talks about that implicitly and expressively. Resolution 1608. What does it consider Southern Cameroon to be? And Republic of Cameroon, what does it consider these two entities? Are they equal, or one is stronger than the other? If they were ever to come together, we're even right there. United Nations Resolution 1608 considers them as equal parties. They are equal. In spite of the fact that in 1961, the population of Southern Cameroon was barely 800,000 people estimated. And now the Republic of Cameroon was about 3 million. We were equal in status. So is it me imagining this? No. This is the background to it. Before the 1961 UN Resolution 1608. Before April 1st, April 21st, that resolution was passed. Many things had gone between Cameroon and the Republic of Cameroon. I usually have been to Boya at least once to talk to Fancha. Fancha have been to Yaoundé a number of times. They had exchanged notes, but these were informal meetings. They are not formal. But Resolution 1608 dedicated itself to one formal meeting, authorized one formal meeting between the British Southern Cameroon and the Republic of Cameroon. Is it an imagination? No. You don't need to go far to find where it was. In Resolution 16085, for example, if you permit me, I can just read that paragraph. 16085
Yes, please.
says this about Southern Cameroon and Cameroon. 16085, in quotes, invites the administering authority, that's the UK, as a party. 2, the government of the Southern Cameroon as a party. 3, the government of the Republic of Cameroon. These are 3 parties invited. If you just take these 3 parties, the UK, government administration authority, they didn't have, and they don't even have the same strength with the Republic of Cameroon. They were a nuclear power. They won the war. They're stronger than the Republic of Cameroon. They had more money. They had more people in population. But they are represented here by a government called the administering authority. The British Southern Cameroon were a small people, but they are referred to here as the government of British Southern Cameroon. And the Republic of Cameroon had just got independence. They were bigger in size than British Southern Cameroon. They are mentioned here as the government of the Republic of Cameroon. So these are 3 parties equal. This resolution does not say that any of these 3 is a senior to the other. 3 of them are equal. They had to meet. And what were they meeting to do? The resolution continues to say, to initiate urgent discussions to a view to finalizing before October 1st, 1961, the arrangement by which, 1, the agreed and declared policies of the parties concerned will be implemented. They agreed, 1, something they agreed privately or publicly. 2, they declared intentions. Were the intentions declared? Yes. Usually had gone to the United Nations in 1959, declaring that when they joined out, there will be a federation of 2 equal states. That was publicly declared. It's referred to here. Usually had gone to Buya. Then the agreed intentions of the parties, these were the 2 parties, the agreed intentions. Where was the agreement? Usually had been to Buya, Foncha had been to Yaoundé, and they agreed on a number of things informally. That's why they needed to formalize it into an agreement according to this resolution before October 1st for the so-called union to take place. That's all what it means. And people have labored the point of where they were supposed to be, call it, a union agreement, whatever you call it, a treaty of agreement. People have labored the point. Or not. They were supposed, these 3 international entities, because each of these was an international entity, the government of Cameroon, the government of the Republic of Cameroon, the government of Ambazonian, the government of the administrative authority, they were internationally recognized entities. So they were internationally recognized entities, and they entered into an agreement as recommended here. To agree, they had agreed. What were they going to do with that agreement? That agreement was supposed to be deposited at the United Nations, according to Article 102 of the Charter. What does 102 of the Charter says? If you permit me to say it, read it again. 102 says, with your permission, treaty or every international agreement entered into by any member of the United Nations after the entry into force of this charter should as soon as possible be registered with the Secretariat and published by it. So what were they supposed to agree? Forget about calling it a treaty. If it was not a treaty, it was an agreement. It's put there. For every agreement, every treaty or every agreement enter into by a member of the United Nations. Cameroon was already a member of the United UK was a member of the United Nations. Southern Cameroon was not a member. So they have nothing to deposit there. But if the UK, which was cited here in this agreement, in this resolution, agreed on something, if the Republic agreed on something, just call it agreement. Let us forget about treaty. Being members of the United Nations, they are duty bound to deposit it at the United Nations Secretariat. And so they were members of the United Nations. It was on them, it is still their duty to produce that agreement. Not necessarily a treaty, you can produce a routine agreement. There's nothing deposited as a secretariat as an oral agreement. You don't deposit oral agreements into any written, into any charter, into any registry. No. You register written documents. And so where is the agreement that they reached? If there was any agreement. Absolutely nothing is found anywhere. Can the Republic lay claim to something based, for example, on its federal constitution of 1961? No, that's a private constitution. It's not an international agreement. The UK did not sign up to it. British Southern Cameroon did not sign up to it. It cannot be an agreement. It cannot be a treaty. And so when President Sako says we must sit down on the basis of equality of the parties, the statutes of the party must be equal. It does not mean that we're equal to them in population, we're equal to them in the economy, or any form that you share. But as a state, as a member entering, we must sit down as equals. And again, to consolidate it, in 1961, came July 6th, when they came with the so-called Fumban Conference. Foncha came with a delegation as a party, independent of Cameroon. Paul Ahijo came with a delegation of his own, headed by him, Ahijo, as the president, followed by Charles Asale, his prime minister. His delegation of 12 people only represented their country. Foncha came with a delegation 4 times bigger than that. He came with a delegation of 50 people, but they all sat on one side of the desk. The delegation from Southern Cameroon. The numerical number of British Southern Cameroon, 50 over 12, did not make them smaller. They retained their status. And so that is what President Sako means by sitting on the table as people equal in status. And since we are now in crisis, as I said yesterday, the crisis has only 2 parties to it, none of which can be similar to the other. The party that thinks that Cameroon should be one and indivisible as it is called the Republic of Cameroon. And in that one and indivisible country called Cameroon, you can have your regions, you can have your counties, you can have provinces, you can have mayor or mayors. That is one Cameroon. They have one delegation to present. There's the other section will say, in this crisis, we don't want to be part of this problem anymore. We are not part of Cameroon. We're not part of the Republic of Cameroon. For whatever reason, it's not a time to justify it here. For whatever reason, we are not part of that thing. And therefore, when you go to sit down and to iron out the differences, the 2 parties must come equal in status. We will make our point why we are not part of it. They will make their case why Southern Cameroon is part of them. And like any other dispute, they will referee, a facilitator, mediator. But the issue is you have asked, what does equal in status mean? Equal in status means two parties equal, that the other one cannot bully the other. No one can impose his or her own will over the other. Could we say, for example, that the Ghana National Dialogue was something equal in status? Of course, it was not even a dialogue organized between the so-called Anglophones or Northwest, Southwest. And that it was a national dialogue for Cameroon. You from Garawa got something out of it, but we got something out of it. So it was never any conference on the equal status organized there. And so if they understand this, they should know where we're coming from. It is not our invention. It is the creation of the international law as contemplated in Resolution 16085. The three parties who were supposed to sit down and agree, the resolution did not impose any of them to be a senior party. They were equal in status. The UK administrators, the Republic of Cameroon, and Southern Cameroon. And so since they were equal, they could agree on something if they all met together. What they agree on, they will agree on consensus. I've said this, you have said that, I said this, let us look for a middle ground. But since this was not the case, they never ever met. If we were ever to meet again, we will insist on equal status, equal in status meeting. Does it mean we shall all agree on that conference as equal in status? We shall not. We will have something different. In order to agree, the two parties will then come to a consensus under a referee, a mediator, accepted by both parties. Both parties must accept the mediator. They must accept the negotiator who will marry them and turn to we cannot agree. As simple as that. I hope everybody understands us. I hope that people understand us. Size, in terms of numbers, does not make them bigger intellectually. The understanding of the United Nations does not depend upon how large they are. It does not depend upon how many of them have PhDs agree. It depends upon the simple analysis of the law. And again, to the best of my knowledge, even the ICM, you sit there and preside over these things are lawyers. I doubt how many of those lawyers who sit in those high courts, even in the United States, are PhD holders in law. Almost none. How many people sitting in the Cameroon Court, Supreme Court in Yaoundé, are PhDs, are law professors? Zero. But they are lawyers. They decide on things that bind even the people with the PhDs. And so that's what equal in status means. As I said, I hope they are following us. I hope everybody is listening to us. Over to you.
Oh, well, I love this part of the educational series, and that's why I would always want to have you on Undaunted. This resonates strongly and it sends a strong message. You're not just speaking, there are facts and they are all there written down, printed out in black and white. So there is nothing to hide. Ambazonians will definitely get this right. All right, Barrister Mbeseha, that's not all. We have their CDC workers protesting in Tiko over unpaid salaries. Now, in a desperate move and cry for help, workers of the Cameroons Development Corporation took to the streets of Tiko to demand their unpaid wages. The protest held this morning. We saw workers carrying signs with messages like no pay, no work, and CDC workers only get paid once or twice a year as they marched through the town. The protesters also visited the office of Tiko divisional officer to make their voices heard, emphasizing the urgent need for resolution. With at least 22 months of unpaid wages, the workers are at their wit's end. The CDC, once a thriving agricultural enterprise, has struggled with financial difficulties for years. We had to find out. Workers have burned the brunt with irregular salaries and inadequate benefits. This protest is the latest manifestation of their frustration. The unpaid salaries have severe consequences for workers and their families. Should we talk about economic hardship? Without regular income, workers would struggle to afford basic necessities. Health risk, delayed or forgotten medical care due to lack of funds, educational disruptions. How about their children's educations? They would also have to suffer as parents cannot pay school fees. Social unrest, prolonged unemployment and poverty can lead to social instabilities. And these workers' demands are very simple, which is what it should be. Immediate payment of outstanding salaries, regular salary payments, improved working conditions, Now, the protest, we believe, aims to prompt the government and CDC management to address these issues. Owing for 1 month is horrible. Owing 2 months, terrible. Owing for 12 months, drastically frustrating. Not to talk about 22 months. Well, while there is no guarantee of success, we hope that the protest would lead to government intervention. Although we hear that the government of Paul Biya have really not been in seat for the past 1 month. Oh well. Public awareness, raising awareness about the workers' plight negotiations, payment plans, or resolutions between the CDC management and workers should go on. Now, the CDC workers' protest reflects the broader view of all of the pains and challenges facing Southern Cameroons, years of neglect, years of pain, and years of conflict, years of war, economic decline, and poor governance have taken a toll on the region and in the country as a whole. And so the human rights organizations and local authorities must acknowledge the workers' struggle, must support demands for fair treatment, must advocate for policy changes addressing the root causes. The people of Southern Cameroon have endured immense hardship. It's time for their voices to be heard and their rights respected as well. Oh well, 22 months of unpaid salaries. The question is, how have they been surviving? Bryce and Mbeseha, do you have an idea on how they've been surviving so far?
Well, if they have been surviving at all, if at all they are surviving, I don't think they are surviving, but if they are still surviving, they're surviving by some magical solutions. Because it is commonly agreed all over the world, where you work, you get paid for the job you have done. And looking at the CDC, what is the CDC in the first place? The CDC is an agro-industrial complex. They're just farmers. Why should they ever go through this? Has CDC ceased to be an agro-industrial complex? Are they still farming? Of course they are. What were they farming? They grew bananas, they grew rubber, they grew palm trees from which they extracted palm oil. And all those things that you talk about. People are still eating those things. People are still buying their rubber. How is it that they are not being paid? They're not being paid simply because the money that comes in, maybe the production has reduced. Whatever money comes in, it's kept by Yaoundé. Because as you see, what is seen there, that building there, that's the headquarters of the CDC in Buta. It's supposed to be headquartered in Buta. But they have opened some other office in Douala, which they call the commercial office, where they ship everything out and they pay through it. That building standing there is a share of a building. It does not represent much in terms of the administration. And so whatever little money comes in, if it is little, is paid to the government at the expense of the workers. Otherwise, how does any human being explain that someone works for 22 months? It's not 22 weeks, 22 months. That's close to 2 years. 2 years makes it 24 months. In 2 months' time, it will be 2 years without pay. What is this pay? Some mega salary, or maybe 4,000 or 5,000 francs. They are not paying that. Why? Because the government is bankrupt. Whatever thing comes in through the CDC is seized by Yaoundé to add to their budget. Which budget they used to pay their civil servants? Which budget they used to buy arms to fight Ambazonians? The CDC is exclusively contained, available only in the Northwest and Southwest. It used to be Northwest and Southwest. But after selling the duty and the rest, it is exclusively in the Southwest, called the Southwest, the Southern Zone. And so the work this morning, it is stolen by Yaoundé used the way they want it to be used, and nothing is left of it. And then you find the poor workers, they are protesting against the non-payment of their wages. They're not even salary, they're called wages. And where are they going to? By a narration, which is correct. They're going to see somebody in Tiko called the Duo. What has the Duo got to do with CDC plantations? What has the Duo got to do with CDC workers? Wherever they're working, somewhere in the bushes in Tiko there, their boss is the CDC manager. Their pay comes in through the manager, not through the prefect. Who is the prefect in the first place? This is the personal appointee of the president of the Republic in Yaoundé. What has this person got to do with the salaries of laborers? Felling palm nuts, cutting bananas, and tapping rubber in the bushes. So you go to see a duo. What can this duo do? He doesn't even know where you exist. He has no connection to you. He doesn't supervise you. If you're not working, he doesn't know. If you work half the time, he has no idea. He probably doesn't even know the plantation where you work. But instead of addressing their complaints to their manager, they call them estate manager, who would probably have sent it to the general manager of the CDC, who lives in Bota, is the overall boss. They are going to protest to a deal. And the next thing you find the deal is, if you want to go on strike, for example, you have to come and take permission from me to go on strike for not having your wages. How else can failure be? How do you, it's like the CDC coming to tell me here will not be paid. What will I do? What will I do? Do I know where their plantations are found? Do I know the terms of their work? They are hourly workers. Do I know how many hours they worked? How would the DO determine their right to salaries? So the DO there, that little boy there with his khaki shirt, because he went to INAM, he has become the all-powerful man in the world. He knows labor law. He knows farmers law. He knows everything in the world. To the point that if you don't have a salary, you must go and see him. Wherever you are working within that geographical area called Tiko, you go and take permission from him to protest against your non-payment of salaries, to protest against your child not going to the hospital. There's a hospital there in Tiko called the CDC hospital. It's owned by the CDC. So if you see this worker goes there, he's not treated, rather than protest against the doctor, who's an employee of the CDC, you go and protest to the DO. If a nurse in the CDC hospital works and is not paid, rather than complain to the doctor, the head office of the CDC, you complain to the DO. What has this DO got to do with all this? So it's a shameless approach. It's unfortunate that 99%, if not 100%, of all these people working in the CDC, from the lowest to the highest, they are Ambazonians. They're just Ambazonians. I wonder if other corporations in the East, like the Republic of Cameroon, who are supposed to be a little bit private, Sako, for example, are they suffering the same fate of non-payment? I doubt it. And so it is punishment, collective punishment, to punish people for being just and close, as they call it. And then if you protested, then you ask, qu'est-ce que vous allez faire? What will you do? The other thing you will say you will do is you go to see the DO, who will never protect you, who will never allow you to do anything anyway. And so that's unfortunate. It should never have been, but it is. But it shall not continue, because we must get out of it. Over to you.
Oh, yes. I'm sure that others will be like, okay, at least when they protest, their voices will be heard. But the question is, who exactly are they protesting for? Who exactly are they protesting to? When I also mentioned in the news that in the corridors of power, I mean, most people in Yaoundé haven't even seen their president for the past 30 days. But there is this particular video that we would need you to see, just for you to imagine and wonder who they are protesting to and why, and who they think would even come to their rescue. Let's see that video of protest.
BBC. Oui, c'est bien en live. Donc, connectez-vous les gars. Nous sommes là ce matin au Crown Court de Southwark à London. Le caporal Grier est là. Le guerrier Roger Fokou Savagnete Jakarta est là. Les combattants sont là. Donc, nous sommes ici au procès de Glencore à Londres. Donc, voilà le message que nous allons passer aujourd'hui. Glencore poured blood money on Cameroon officials. Glencore fuels war in Cameroon. Donc, les combattants de la brigade anti-Sardina UK sont là. Et puis, nous sommes prêts. Nous attendons que les officiels arrivent, le magistrat, les avocats, les accusés. Donc, nous sommes là. Nous sommes déjà en place. Votre humble servante, Sandy de Boston, moi-même, je suis là. Le caporal Grier est là. Toute l'équipe est en place. Nous attendons que les officiels arrivent. Comme vous pouvez le voir, la sécurité du tribunal est là. Ils nous ont vérifié. Il y a quelques journalistes qui commencent à arriver. La base est là. Nous sommes sur place. Nous sommes sur place. Donc, nous sommes venus ici pour pleurer l'argent de notre pays qui s'évapore dans les caisses des pilleurs et des voleurs. Nous sommes ici pour réclamer la dépouille de Paul Biya qui est dans le frigo à Genève. Nous sommes là. Donc les gars sont en train d'arriver, les combattants sont en train d'arriver. Nous venons de très loin. Nous venons de très loin. Nous venons de Manchester, nous venons de Birmingham. Nous venons d'un peu partout.
Dans quel mode se trouve Paul Biya également? Aujourd'hui, là, vous aurez tout. C'est chaud.
Donc, la presse britannique, la presse britannique sera ici aujourd'hui et nous allons déclarer devant la presse britannique que le dictateur Paul Biya est dans un frigo à Genève depuis un mois.
Il est dans le frigo.
Personne au Cameroun ne l'a vu. Ça fait 30 jours. Regardez les Amazones qui sont en larmes. Les larmes de sang. Les Amazones sont en train de pleurer.
Il faut les zoomer.
Les Amazones pleurent, les larmes de sang, parce que le sang coule dans notre pays. Le sang des Camerounais, la rivière de sang qui coule au Cameroun. Nous sommes ici pour exposer l'horreur, le vol, la forfaiture qui se passe dans notre pays. Nous sommes là.
Il faut aussi rappeler aux gens que le problème Glencore est désormais entre les mains
de la basse.
La basse, nous allons suivre ce dossier.
La basse s'est saisie du dossier Glencore. Nous avons introduit notre plainte dans le réseau de la justice anglaise et désormais nous allons suivre ce dossier. La base se saisit du dossier Glencore. C'est ça.
Nous allons aussi vous donner 10 renseignements où se trouve Paul Biya et il ne doit pas être enterré au Cameroun. Il sera enterré ensuite.
Oh well, we can see tension and pressure everywhere. Protests everywhere. Who exactly should they cry to? Well, the tension in the corridors of power in Yaoundé as the people have not been able to see their president. People say he's missing. And now Cameroonians are protesting on serious issues pertaining to fraud with his government and, his leadership. The stakes simply is high. But then, Barrister Mbeseha, with so much knowledge, what would you have to say about this particular protest?
I think those are so-called Cameroonians. They are protesting where? They are protesting in London. But they are carrying the Cameroon flag. And they are protesting against who? Glencore for their corruption. We must remember that the corruption that is involved here is transcontinental and transnational. Glencore has been tried in the US, which is completely a different continent. They are now in a court in London, in Europe. That's a different continent. And the beneficiaries of the so-called corruption were in Cameroon. Africa is a 3 continents. It's transcontinental, it's transnational. But at the international level, governments, countries are represented by governments. Governments represent their people. So when you carry the Cameroon flag and you're protesting in London against a crime committed in Cameroon by Cameroonians, what do you expect a London court to do? The London court can tell the world it is Mbeseha who stole the money, who is not living in London anyway. He's living in Bamenda or living in Buga or in Yaoundé. That's all. The London court, the London justice system will not come to Cameroon to prosecute me. Because you see, they are protesting and saying too many things, which is very important. Oh, their president has been absent for months. They don't know where he is. He is dead. Let him be buried in Cameroon. Those are their voices. But what is the government of Cameroon saying? What is the government whose flag they are carrying there? What are they saying about all those things? To them, at least officially, there's no corruption. In other words, even if they took the money, there was no corruption. Which is what I've often said here, a system of legalized criminals. They are doing it, everybody thinks it's wrong. But legally, by their own standards, they are just doing normal thing. They steal the money. You cannot take them to court. Because even the courts so far there are not the type of courts you get in London. They are not the courts you get in America. They are courts created by the presidential decree, judges appointed by the same president. And I've said this before, going court, it is limited to Sonora and SNH. Sonora and SNH deal with the same product.
Okay.
Sonora refines oil and gas. It is shipped or marketed by SNH. The two entities, Sonora and the SNH, are owned directly by the presidency of the Republic of Cameroon. Their managers are appointed by the president. Reports, if any, are sent to the president. And in that larger word called family of the president, who is the president there? The presidency includes so many other things. It includes individuals. And in terms of Cameroon, it includes the appointment of wives, cousins, brothers and sisters there. And so, does anybody in Cameroon expect Mr. Paul Biya or whoever is sitting in the presidency there, if the money stolen, if it's true, then are being stolen by his wife, because she's part of the presidency.
Okay.
And managed, for example, in the so-called Shanta Biya Foundation, which is run by the Betis. Will you expect Mr. President Paul Biya to turn around and prosecute his wife or his son? How will he prosecute them? When the judges who sit in the court there are also their uncles. Blood is thicker than water. That is just natural. Blood is thicker than water. They will not be able to prosecute their own brothers, their own cousins or sisters, their own wives. So they're not going to do it. What we are seeing, what these both demonstrating are seen as crimes, in the eyes of Yaoundé, are not crimes. But should they live like this forever? No. Why are they protesting in Yaoundé? Why are they protesting in Birmingham? Why are they protesting in the UK, in the US? Why? How many times have they protested in Cameroon? How many times have they protested in Cameroon to say hold these people accountable?
So you think the protest is just a mirage or probably a staged?
Well, it's not a mirage. It's a sad show. Because for it to be effective, for people to be brought to trial, those demonstrations, those protests should have an effect in Yaoundé, which is the headquarters of the theft, where the people who are alleged to have stolen live and work, where the laws of Cameroon prevail. So if you protest, I said, for example, that court, it is sitting there. They can come out with the list and say that money was stolen by ABC. That will be all they can do. They cannot follow up with that allegation. They can't catch the people and go and try them. If you call the people and try them, they're going to take them to London jail. They send them to Koningi. I will know where Koningi prison is. A few weeks ago, we saw people arrested for some crimes, economic crimes. They were put there. Within 48 hours, they were all out. So, bottom line is, for the Cameroon people carrying that flag, the simple answer is, Cameroon, you got the government you deserve. If you don't like the government you deserve, if you don't like that government, you must put in one that is accountable to you. If the government is not accountable to you, you're wasting your time. They will steal. This is not the first. They have been stealing forever. I saw them on your own social media program. They say Cameroon is a country where no project ever matures. Nothing is ever done to the finish. But no project is ever budgeted to end there. You budget a project, it will end up being times the budget, and the project will never be delivered. And then Cameroonians are sitting there. Nobody is doing anything from the home front. There's not so much human beings can take. Yes, you want Paul Biya to be buried in Yaoundé. That's part of their protest. And so what? We bury him in a cemetery in Volien or in a cemetery at the Trudy Palace. His bones will wake up and can answer the questions. He's already dead. His wife and his surrogates, they will continue with the graft. Yes, they buried Ahijo in Senegal. What difference does it make? The crimes he committed against Ambazonian have not been paid for. He's dead. So again, if they want to protest and make it meaningful, their protest should be translated to Cameroon. And I may end this. I saw it on social media. They have a political party there that attempted to demonstrate to say people should be held accountable. What happened to those people? They were caught and jailed. And what happened to the population? They kept quiet. So if I go there to demonstrate and jail me, and they jail me, and you keep quiet, how do you expect to take the first person to come and demonstrate? Nobody will come out. Because everything's said and done. They are human beings. They have their families to deal with. They have their own lives to live. And so if Jay come to, for example, as he tried to do with his people, for asking for democracy, freedom of the press, accountability in the use of public funds, and you jail him, how do you expect another person to stand up and do it? If that jail did not provoke an uprising, say in Douala, in Bafoussam, in Bidarawa, it provoked no uprising. Therefore, they are in tacit approval of what is going on. And so they can do that.
Let me take you offline a bit. I don't know if you've seen this. Well, initially it was a report that the president of the Cameroon is not alive, but later reports had it that he has reappeared. I don't know if you read any reports suggesting that. Now, suppose this time the news was true, or probably he's not alive. What do you predict as the immediate future for the Cameroons? Now, consider the ongoing war between the two Cameroons, the power struggle among various stakeholders, such as the Bamileke, who believe it is their turn to occupy the Unity Palace, and probably the Bulus and the Betty groups who wish to retain power. Now, additionally, there are suspicions around the military intentions, including the possibility of probably a coup. How might these dynamics unfold in the absence of the president?
Well, is the president there or alive or dead? We don't know. But there's a communique out there signed by Famendongo. I think put it out this morning. Famendongo is a government minister in the first place. But he is signing a communique as the Secretary General of the CPDM, denouncing those people who say the president is dead or absent. Famendongo signing as the Secretary General of the CPDM. One wonders if Mr. Paul Biya was the president of the CPDM or the president of Cameroon. The government of Cameroon has not come out about the story of being told everywhere that this guy is dead. What responsibility does the CPDM have nationwide to sign, nationwide and internationally, to sign a communique debunking the presumed death, due to the prolonged absence of their own president? Because of his prolonged absence. He's been away for 1 month without any explanation. A politician, whoever enters politics, there's nothing called private life in politics. Your life is for public scrutiny. And so if the president went out in a government plane, escorted by soldiers and the officials, to fly to China in an official delegation and did not return to Cameroon as the president. Cameroonians have the duty, the right to ask for his whereabouts. Who must answer for his whereabouts is not the party to which he belongs. It is the government that he hates. The government, I'm sure, they have a spokesperson. They have said nothing. Terrible people are coming out in Yongo, writing on behalf of the Central Committee of the CPDM to denounce it. But back to your question, as a coup d'etat. No, if it is based on my personal reflection, a coup d'etat, if it ever happens, might not even change the dynamics of what is happening.
No.
Because a coup d'etat is a military takeover. And a military takeover is generally a thing of the senior military.
Okay.
In Cameroon, to the best of my knowledge, by my own estimation, if there are 100 senior military officials, 100, let us just take it to be 100, 80 of those senior military officials are Beti Bulu people. So it will be an in-house coup d'etat. A Bulu man replacing a Bulu man is like taking Ngongo to replace Ayolo or to replace Bobia. This is a family. So what would this coup d'etat actually mean in the first place? It would mean replacing one Bulu person or one clan, a member of the same clan, and they are a member of the same clan. And who else? How else can you do it? You are going to eliminate the 80 people of the same clan that command the core of the army, from generals to colonels. You're going to eliminate all of them. To superimpose yourself up there as the supreme military leader. It's possible, but it's quite difficult.
Okay.
And so what will an eventual takeover mean? I think, as I've said, no individual human being is stronger than the people. If people in Cameroon, when I say Cameroon, I don't include Ambazonian, if people in Cameroon really want change, they must be ready to die for it, which is why Ambazonians are dying. They must be prepared to stand up to whatever thing comes around and say, no, enough is enough. They must be able to start from Garawa to Bertua, start from Bertua to Bafusam, to say, look, you arrest Kamto, for example, as I've been talking about lock one store, lock every store. You arrest one protester, all of us are in the streets. That's the time that sense will come to the people who have monopolized power in Yaoundé, who have stolen with impunity, who have killed with impunity, who have done everything imaginable in the world with impunity. Until the people in the four corners of the country, from the north to the east, to the south, to the west, until they can come out and say with one voice, enough is enough.
Obviously.
They will never go anywhere. Again, back to Ambazonia. If you saw the demonstration on October 1st, if you saw what we are doing now, we have told them enough is enough. You have killed some of us, but you can kill some. You cannot kill all. You have imprisoned some people. You can imprison some. You will not imprison all. And until you leave, you pack and leave, we will stand by and with our leaders until death does us part. And so we imagine and call on Cameroonians to emulate what Ambazonians are doing. We're such a small people, but determined and educated people, politically, legally, and otherwise. And so, Paul Bida's death, his death, everybody will die. I'm surprised that they're even surprised that he's dead. I don't know how many of us live off the 90s. He should have been dead long ago. So they were waiting for him to reach 99 before he dies, and they start to protest. He's not dead physically, but he's dead intellectually. That guy, no human being lives at 90 and he or she is still normal. No male, very few male at 90 don't wear diapers. So the majority, 99% of people at 90 wear diapers. And those 99% of the people, including Mr. Pobia, no diaper wearing person reasons better. Forgetfulness is part of that culture of old age. And so I don't know why they want him to die only now. He should have been dead long ago. But God gave him the opportunity to stay. But God did not authorize him to rule over living people. God has never authorized the dead to rule over the living. And so let them stand up to their rights. Let them demonstrate in London if they can. But they must translate their demonstration in London, in Paris, in Washington, pray action in the ground, in Bafoussam, in Garoua, in Bedwa, in Yaoundé, in every corner of their land. That's they can get justice. Because justice delayed is justice denied. Over to you.
Oh, well. While we're still talking about all of the protests, let's take a walk into the insecurities. The Colonial Senior Divisional Officer for Ndian County, Gilbert Gilbai Badena, has suspended the circulation of boats in Indian waters as after the abduction of the Colonial Divisional Officer of Idabacho by abducted by unknown gunmen. Now, the administrative ban is contained in a colonial prefectural date, which is known for the 2nd of October. So the measure follows the abduction of Roland Iwane, divisional officer of Idebato, who was kidnapped on the 1st of October by unknown gunmen. While the colonial SDO others is reading that with effect of the date of the present order, the circulation of boats on the stretch of waters in Indian is strictly suspended till further notice. Well, by derogation of paragraph 1, exception is given to both of forces of defense and security involving in security operations, the Navy, PAMOL, civil servants, and civil staff moving between the different subdivisions and to persons in distress on their demand duly justified. Now, according to that, says any person or group of persons who violates the provision of the order shall be punished following the law and regulation in force. He added, charging the competent services to ensure its implementation. So it should be recorded that on the 1st of October, Roland Iwane, who is a colonial divisional officer for Idebacho and staff of Idebacho Council in the Bakassi Peninsula, were adopted by gunmen at about 2:15 a.m. Well, according to information we gathered, the gunmen, according to them, were unidentified men who took directions towards the border's flying boats. Well, the whereabouts of the abducted officials have remained unknown since their disappearance. No armed group has also claimed responsibility. And so the Bakassi Peninsula faces security threats from Ambazonian down to other parts that the border crosses, which can also include Nigeria. And this is quite pathetic. I mean, Ambazonians on all fronts, in all areas, suffering. I mean, insecurity we've been battling. Yesterday on Undaunted, we talked about severe insecurities, even in Bamenda as well. Barrister Mbeseha, we're still on insecurity. I'm sure that yesterday we talked, Stir Smart talked severely on insecurities in Bamenda, kidnap, rape, and all of that. And remember last week we talked about the young boy who is a money agent who was also killed. I mean, insecurity has been a thing right now in Ambazonia and its environs. What would you have to say?
Well, we have talked about insecurity in Ambazonia a lot. Let me deal with insecurity in Ndian, in Idabato, the area where this guy, so-called the duo, was adopted. Yes. Was this insecurity foreseeable in that area? Insecurity has always been foreseeable there. This is not the first duo of Idabato. 10, 15 years ago, one of ours was sent there. It was a duo in Moyoka. They transferred him there. He never ever got there. They killed him. They killed him in the same ocean. So is insecurity new in the so-called Bakassi Peninsula? It's not new. It's absolutely something that they should have contemplated. But what's important is seeing their reaction now. How's their reaction? What are they saying? These are people who are so desperate.
Yeah, because it has involved an official, so they tend to.
Yeah, but the one
add
my
more
contributor was killed was
strictness
also an
to-
official. My country guy who was killed there was also a government official. It was a deal, the same status with this guy. But they are showing their desperation. What is your desperation? It's not because they caught this guy. No. That man, they can take 10 of them. That is not important to them. What's important to them is to try to show that, well, even the people who adopted this guy, they are not Ambazonians. They are not the Ambazonians who are so strong to come and capture us. I'm not saying this by imagination, no. Yesterday, there's a guy from there who calls himself a senator. He organized a whole press conference in Yaoundé to tell the people that, well, this guy, the deal was taken away, but was not taken by Amba. Amba does not pose no threat there. That's his focus, not to save this guy. He just wants that they should dismiss the idea that this could be a possible action by Amba on October 1st. That's his focus. I say, well, they took him to Nigeria. He's not, there. That's what he's saying. But again, I said this is foreseeable. This was predictable. Why? Go back to 2005, 2006, when we were afraid about the Green Tree Agreement. The Green Tree Agreement, before the Green Tree Agreement, measurement had established peace and development in Bakassi. Those islands all combined. There be modern schools there. There be modern security posts there. They were forced to pull out in respect of the Bakassi Agreement. They were, Yaoundé, place those structures in the Bakassi Peninsula. Security, education, thing that goes with it. They have been stealing the money to go to Glencore. They have abandoned the security of the Bakassi Peninsula. Nothing has been done to protect anybody there. The place has fallen from grace to whatever thing you can call it, to the bottom, as compared to what was there when the Nigerian administration was there. And so when they take one of them there, another idiot, who calls himself the prefect, he makes a banning boats. How many boats does he have himself there? How many flying boats does he have to enforce his orders? If he had the flying boats, this didn't come in place. Why did he not follow them and catch them? This guy is gone. Yesterday I mentioned this before. This is a government that is prepared to deploy millions, billions, hire planes, go to the city of Abuja, go to the best hotel there and kidnap Sako and others, and fly them to Yaoundé. But they're unable to buy even a simple flying boat in Bakassi, in the Dabato, to follow armed robbers, pirates. And so what type of government is this? What type of incompetence is this? Is it deliberate? Of course it is deliberate. Because the improvement of Bakassi Peninsula will benefit essentially the people of Bakassi, not Uwondo people, not Beti people. To the best of my own calculations, for the past 20, 30 years, most of the people they sent to Bakassi as administrators are Ambazonians. You take the risk. If you die there, you die. It has nothing to do with them. This guy said died some time ago, some BLM. This guy, this is an Anglophone, they call him. So they put you at risk. They steal the money from there. There's no protection provided there for you. And then all what they give you is a round stamp and a pen. If people in Bakassi want even to go out in Dabat, they want even to go out and protest, they were required to go and take permission from that deal. Who will never give him anyway. Who will never give them anyway. And so there's generalized insecurity in the country, according to them, because they don't have the money. There's insecurity in Bakassi. Why? When the money is all coming from there. When by international agreement under the Green Tree Agreement, they had agreed to do exactly what the Nigerians were doing. When the Nigerian administration was there, they were not kidnapping people there. And so that is it. It is so bad. It is so unfortunate that you will find senators, MPs who sit in Yaoundé. They're supposed to represent the people of Bakassi, the people of Ndian, as President Sako says. They don't represent anybody but in Yaoundé. They come and kidnap these people killed them. They are their own brothers, they are their own sisters. They kidnapped that duo with the worker of the council, the so-called council in the Debato. Where are they? Remember 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, that adopted a number of people in Ndian, senior government officials. Till today, they never saw their corpses. At the beginning of this battle, this struggle, they adopted a duo, so-called duo in Batibo. Nobody ever knew where it was buried. And so that is the state in which we find ourselves. Again, it should never have been that. We should not have done it. But we're going through it. But we must get out of it because there's light at the end of the tunnel. It's a rough journey. It's not a journey in the plane, but it's a sure journey. We will succeed. And Idabato, Ndian, and other risk areas shall glorify our success. Over to you.
Stand with Ambazonia. Empower ABC Amba TV. We are calling on Ambazonians around the world to unite and uplift ABC Amba TV, Ambazonian Broadcasting Corporation. In this critical time of war, ensuring the station's survival is more important than ever. But what does ABC Amba TV truly represent for Ambazonia?
At the heart of Ambazonia's war of independence, ABC Amba TV stands as a beacon. Years of recolonization, annexation, and French Cameroons' oppressive occupation of the southern Cameroons' Ambazonia have led to our exclusion. Our identity was hidden, our history distorted, our sovereignty denied.
Queen of England is aware that the British Southern Cameroons were never a colony under France.
Since its inception in 2018, ABC Amba TV has been our lifeline.
Months of diplomacy have failed to resolve the crisis as fear grows over an imminent Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Our work in the dark is our chance to tell our stories to the world, to give voice to the voiceless, and broadcast the truth of our struggle.
We are serious about executing this revolution.
It has become a vital arm of our government in wartime, making diplomacy achievable and showcasing our untold stories.
ABC Amba, you guys know how important ABC is for this, our quest for international recognition.
Your donations can make a world of difference. Every bit of support helps keep our stories alive, our presence known, and our fight in the global conversation.
The moment they notice that we are no longer on air, they think that, oh, maybe La Republic has succeeded. This is about Ambazonia. One thing we must always remember.
Where would we be without ABC Amba TV? Let's ensure we never have to find out.
A revolution is a temporary state of insanity to bring about sanity.
Mobilize, donate, stand with Ambazonia, donate to ABC Amba TV.
Together, let's write the next chapter of our history.
It is better to light the candle than to curse the dark.
Support ABC Amba TV campaign. Ambazonia Independence, voice for the voiceless. Mobilize for change.
Oh, you're welcome back. So the Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, a media watchdog based in New York, says the Colonial La Republic de Cameroon government is orchestrating a massive crackdown on media houses and journalists ahead of the La Republic de Cameroon presidential elections next year. In a recent report, CPJ says journalists and media organs are facing physical attacks from unknown quarters, arrest threats, prosecution and administrative sanctions from the Colonial National Communication Council, the NCC, whose actions have been described by media practitioners as weaponized the likes of Samuel Wazizi and the rest. Attacks on the press have escalated as La Republic of Cameroon prepares for elections in 2025 that could see President Biya, one of the world's longest serving presidents, win another 7-year term. That's what the CPJ wrote, just like we talked recently, and just like Barrister Mbeseha analyzed. Why are Cameroonians not protesting? Well, tensions have been exacerbated by the delay of parliamentary and local elections until 2026, which octogenarian Biya opponents fear will strengthen his hands in the presidential vote. Several media organs and journalists, according to the CPJ, were sanctioned by the Colonial NCC recently. But that's not all. In August this year, Equinox Television, a privately owned TV station broadcasting from Douala, Yaoundé, had its flagship program suspended alongside its presenter, Divao Fangwa. The question is why? Because he was speaking the truth. Well, they were suspended for a month after being deemed to have harmed the reputations of 2 government ministers. And so you ask, where is freedom of speech and expression? Again, on the 8th of August, CPJ noted Colonial NCC's sledgehammer fell on privately owned newspaper Premier The Hall, its reporter Alien Balolong, and publishing director Jeremy Baluko. They were suspended for 1 month for failing to cross-check and balance allegations of mismanagement by the Colonial Regional Agriculture Delegate Jean-Claude Conde. That's not even all. The RIS radio, on the other hand, were not spared after a Colonial NCC decision on the 8th of August 2024. On the 13th of August, the police sealed its doors to suspend broadcasting and to stop the station manager, Sismundi Balo, from practicing journalism. The station and its manager were given a 6-month suspension for airing unfounded and offensive statements about the powerful Ferdinand Ngongo, who is the Secretary General at the presidency, on the 22nd of July. Now, these sanctions have been condemned by journalist trade union trades in the Cameroons and even worldwide. The reduction of freedom of expression at the media has begun. Journalists are censoring themselves under the instructions of their bosses or editors. This is also what the journalist is saying, one Mariam Obam, who is the president of the National Union of Journalists. Now, we are going through a difficult period, said Franco Mboka, who is the president of the Network of Press Owners in the Cameroons. There are risks for those who want to remain professionals. There are threats, there are physical attacks, and of course, there is actually kidnappings. Well, while grappling with the Colonial NCC sanctions, media practitioners in Cameroons have been facing physical attacks and threats for doing their job. This is their job. Emmanuel Ekoli, who is an editor, he said he's amongst the journalists who have been physically targeted so far. Emmanuel Ekoli is an editor with the La Voix du Centre newspaper. Well, on 22nd of August, he was beaten by 3 men on a motorcycle in Yaoundé. They did not just beat him, they stole his laptop, his phone, and his recording equipment. He was similarly attacked by 3 men on motorcycle again on the 9th of July. He said he's received threats over his journalism and works with the press freedom organizations, Reporters Without Borders, investigating all of the 2023 murder of journalist Martini Zogo as well. La Voix du Centre reporter says he and this Ekole had also received threatening calls and messages over a June report on corruption in an inheritance case. While the crackdown on press freedom has also seen journalists arrested, with others slammed with jail terms. So on the 4th of September, police arrested La Zenith reporter while he was attending an appointment related to his investigation into embezzlement in the Ministry of Secondary Education. Zambo was threatened and coerced into publishing a Facebook post recanting his findings before he was released on the 6th of September. On the other hand, Amadou Vomuke, former managing director of the state-owned Cameroon Radio and Television, was on the 8th of August sentenced to 20 years in prison for embezzlement. The 73-year-old has been jailed since 2016 and was given a 12-year sentence in 2022 on a separate embezzlement charge. And so CPJ has described the sentence as a reprisal for his journalistic independence in the face of government directives. All of this is before the elections. And so you wonder, where is press freedom? Is there anything like press freedom in the Cameroons? Barrister Mbeseha, let's say your thoughts.
Well, in short answer to your question, there is nothing like press freedom in Cameroon. And all the instances you have given there just go to illustrate that. Let us take up from what you said about Equinox. Equinox is one of the few news organs in Cameroon that is watched worldwide. In fact, it's watched nationwide and worldwide. I watch it from here. It's one of the few organs that tries to assert press freedom. And they are banned. They just suspend you from doing something. The suspension itself, which is so illegal, it has no meaning. Because when they suspended Equinox, events that followed were one that interested me most. Towards the end, about a few weeks or a week to the end of the so-called suspension, the committee that is supposed to supervise whatever thing they call press freedom in Cameroon decided to visit Equinox in Douala. They came like other gangsters on notice, knocking at the doors at 1 o'clock. We're coming in at 1. Okay, well, they're waiting for you at 1. You come at 12:15. As if that is not enough, you break in and go in there. But that is not the important thing. The important thing is this discussion that followed. And I took all one line from there. Equinox reminded them that they were not just illegal. They, sitting there issuing the orders, they were manifestly incompetent. Why? Because the decree that put them in place had since expired. Their mandate had expired 3 months before that the announcement they were issuing there. So we were no longer in office. They are issuing a decree that has no meaning. Shamelessly they left. And a few days after that, they wrote back, oh, the ban is lifted. Let us go to press freedom, which I say it doesn't exist and might not exist for the next several years, if not decades. You see, there's a famous case on trial in that country, which involves journalists. It involves a certain Martinez Zogo. Martinez Zogo was a private person running an FM radio station. Just like Wazizi. They tracked him down and killed him because of what he was saying. But what is important in this analysis, which I say the press freedom will never go anywhere, is that on trial, are suspects and defendants. And among the defendants is the Ministry of Defense. Because his death was planned and executed from the ministry. That government officials acting with the government cover to track this poor journalist and kill him. And publicly, before the courts, the government has become a party to the instant case. So how do you have a country where they have legalized institutions that are used to kill journalists and you believe in press freedom? It's not going to come. It's a very institution that went to Boya, adopted Wazizi years back. For doing what? For having an FM, frequency modulation small radio station. They brought him to Yaoundé. He had never been seen again. But they have told us Wazizi is dead. This from them. They have not told us where they buried Wazizi. As we speak, nothing. Again, the larger reaction which I said, dealing with the corruption. You did not see people stand up in Garoua, in Bertua, across the nation. They say this is wrong. Here Wazizi died. Here Martinez Zogo died. This is family issue. The country, as a country, will never change until you accept and defend your own rights. If they are not doing it, it will be so difficult, if not impossible, to talk of human rights and to talk of respecting journalists. Respecting journalists in Cameroon is practically, you might say it on paper, it's practically impossible. Why? Because of the structure they have set in place there. The administering authorities, the structure, the governmental structures in place make it impossible for you to have press freedom. Let's take one example, for example. If you are publishing a newspaper in one big city called Bamenda Town, maybe you are publishing in Queen. In Bamenda Town, they have a series of people appointed by Yaoundé from the presidency to oversee press freedom. Dotted everywhere, call it Bamenda 1. They have a deal there, appointee of the president. Bamenda 2, Bamenda 3, Bamenda 4. Something can be Bamenda 1, authorized by the duo of Bamenda 1, and will be illegal by the duo of Bamenda 2. This is a replica of what is happening in the whole Cameroon. We have Douala 1, 2, 3 to 5 in one small city. Here we are one day 1, 2, 3 to 7, with all these administrators appointed there to stifle freedom. Because how do you, for example, say you want to make a demonstration against the killing of Wazizi or any journalist? You take permission from one of those duos. But you cannot do it across the town of Douala until you go and take permission from all the 5 duos. Otherwise, you will be limited to Bepanda or to Santa or to Nkwen. You will never be allowed to come down to town. Because the duo of Nkwen authorize you, the duo of Bamenda Town or Nkwen or any other town, they will not do you at the same town. So they make this thing so difficult for people to protest against it. They stifle it from birth. How will we make a rare demonstration in Douala if you cannot leave Bonaberi and go to Bonamdio with a demonstration? We'll limit it to that place. But if the demonstration had moved to Bonamdio, the airport, by the time I get there, we would have amassed 2 million people on the streets. That will have a lot of meaning, worldwide and internationally. But you're not allowed to do that. Because of the deal of Douala 1 might authorize you. The deal of Douala 2, where you are going to pass, will not let you pass. Talk less of the deal of Douala 3, 4, 5. So, because demonstrations are meant to appeal to the population and to the world, for the big crowd you gather. The whole idea of demonstration is so controlled that you cannot even have the opportunity to call people to come to the streets to demonstrate. Then, where are we heading to? Journalists have zero protection. If you have any protection, it is when you are singing the choir of the CPDM. It is when you are hiding their crimes. If you write an article today that grain core money is suspect, just say you suspect went to Ngongo, they will kill you. Why were they suspending Equinox, as you just mentioned? Why were they suspending Equinox? Because Equinox had criticized Atanganji. That's in the suspension. So you suspend, you criticize a government official, you're down. It is not enough for them to lift the ban. No. A 1 month suspension in terms of popularity, in terms of money, because those things work on private advertisement. You close down their team for 1 month. You have closed down their source of income for 1 month. How are they going to pay their workers? So these people are criminals. They know what they are doing. It's not enough for you to suspend the news media for 1 month and call it back. They have lost clientele. They have lost publicity. And so you say, okay, well, lifted the suspension. You have already destroyed the network. You've already destroyed the network. And so journalists in Cameroon have a long way to go. But journalists only operate within the context of a political system, within the context of a population. Until the population will rise up to say, no, enough is enough. in terms of the graft, in terms of the political vision, in terms of journalism, in terms of how the whole country is run. When you can rise up to that nonsense and bring down the impossible giant, then will you enjoy freedom. The press, to me, has no protection. You are only protected if you are speaking the language of the civilian. Over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister Mbeseha. They actually all have a long way to go, but the government and the journalists. All right, this is where we would let you go. Would see you next time on Undaunted. Thank you so much for being part of tonight's Undaunted. Your analysis for tonight is definitely a strong review that I would recommend for all Ambazonians to go and watch and share with their families and friends. All right, until I see you next time on Undaunted is goodbye from us here. Coming up next is news across Africa. Well, at least 10 people have died and many remain missing following mine collapse in central Zambia. Well, according to police reports on Monday, rescue operations are currently underway, though the exact number of miners still underground is unclear. The incident occurred in Mumbai, located approximately 150 kilometers, 93 miles west Lusaka. No immediate cause for the collapse has been provided. 9 bodies have been recovered from the site, and a 10th individual died in the hospital, stated Charity Munganga Chanter, police command commissioner for the Central Province, have additionally added miners who were injured and are receiving medical treatment. Collins Nzovu, a local government minister, indicated that 20 miners are unaccounted for and feared dead. Although police have not confirmed this figure, the miners are believed to be informal workers, a common occurrence in Zambia. Well, last year, several informal miners lost their lives in landslides at an open pit copper mine in Shingula, near the northern border with Congo. Meanwhile, Kenya Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who is facing an impeachment motion for allegedly supporting anti-government protests and involvement in corruption, has defended himself and confirmed his appearance before Parliament on Tuesday. In a televised address, he accused the legislator behind the motion of spreading falsehood, labeling it shameful and sensational. This marks his first detailed response to the allegation. Gachagua plans to defend himself for 2 hours during the parliamentary session. He also clarified that some properties listed in the notion belonged to his late brother and justified renovation costs for his official residence, stating it was in disrepair and required upgrading. During a prayer meeting, he asked President William Ruto's legislators and the public for forgiveness regarding any missteps in his tenure. However, he emphasized that his apology was not an admission of guilt and dismissed rumors of his resignation. Legislators will debate the motion on Tuesday before voting, with 291 legislators exceeding the required 170 initially supporting it, though some have since withdrawn their back after hearing from constituents. Ruto has not publicly commented on the impeachment, having previously stated he would not humiliate his deputy. Let's see what's happening in Guinea as Guinea approaches the end of its transition period. Well, uncertainty and concerns are mounting. Opposition leader Fodebad has raised alarms over the disappearance of political activists and the lack of a clear electoral timeline indicating violations of the transition charter. He noted that commitments made on the 5th of September regarding human rights and the restoration of constitutional order have yet to be fulfilled. In October 2022, Transitional President Mamadou Dumubai promised that power would be transferred to an elected civilian government by the end of 2024, pending discussions with ECOWAS. Baude expressed hope that Duboya would honor his commitments and avoid the historical pitfalls of leaders who cling to power. Insecurity remains a significant issue, with military officials denying reports of gunfire in Conakry, labeling them as unfounded. However, Baude contends that fear pervades the country. In Conakry, heightened security measures and new military equipment are evident, similarly aimed at countering potential threats. The recent Independence Parade showcased only the special forces, underscoring concerns about diminishing freedoms and rising abduction. How about Ethiopia? Ethiopia's two houses of parliament elected Taye Asake Selassie as the new president on October 7th. He was sworn in the same day, succeeding the country's first female president, who held the largely ceremonial position for 6 years. The African Union chairperson congratulated the outgoing foreign minister on his election and affirmed the AU Commission's ongoing support for Ethiopia's democratic and developmental progress. Taye is a seasoned diplomat, previously serving as Ethiopia's permanent ambassador to the United Nations in New York. The former president made history as Ethiopia's first female leader in 2018, but resigned from her role as the UN Secretary General Special Representative to the African Union to take up the presidency. Reports suggest a rift between her and Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, who contributed to her departure. Coming up next is news across the globe. Our Vice President Kamala Harris embarked on the whirlwind media tour, facing tough questions and charming audience in a slew of high-profile interviews. The Democratic presidential nominee latest media blitz began with a gripping 60-minute interview that aired on Monday, where she tackled pressing issues like funding her economic plans, border security, and confronting Russia's aggression in Ukraine. However, Harry's media strategy wasn't all about tough questioning. She also sat down with popular podcast host Alex Cooper on Call Her Daddy Sunday, connecting with a younger demographic. The vice president's hectic schedule continued on Tuesday with appearances on ABC's The View, a candid conversation with Howard Stern, and a weekly late-night chat with Stephen Colbert on CBS The Late Show. Thursday, we'll see Harris engaging with Hispanic voters during a Univision town hall addressing concerns and sharing her vision. With the presidential election merely weeks away and no further debates scheduled with rival Donald Trump, these interviews offers a crucial platform for Harris to showcase her leadership, charisma, and policy expertise as the nation watches. Every word counts, and the stakes have never been higher. Meanwhile, Iran's quest for air supremacy in the midst of the devastating Iran and Iraq war, the Iranian armed forces recognized the urgent need to bolster their air defenses. The 1980s marked the beginning of a significant investment in ground-based air defense system, starting with the acquisition of Chinese-built HQ-2 system derived from the Soviet S-75. This system granted Iran advanced high-altitude targeting capabilities, a crucial edge in protecting its skies. A pivotal turning point came in 1989 when Iran and the Soviet Union forged a new alliance. This reapproachment paved the way for Iran to acquire second-hand Soviet-built X-200D long-range air defense system in the 1990s. With an all-parallel 300-kilometer targeting range, this system ensured comprehensive coverage of Iran's airspace for the first time. The S-200D's powerful radio coverage also helped offset the losses incurred from Iraq strikes on radar installation during the war. However, despite these advancements, Iranian air defense still lagged behind the cutting edge. Russia's export of its revolutionary S-300 PM family of systems in the early 1990s raised the bar, combining diverse missiles classes, long-range targeting, and high mobility in an unprecedented package. Iran's ongoing pursuit of air defense modernization reflects the nation's unwavering commitment to safeguarding its sovereignty and protecting its people. Meanwhile, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has sent a birthday message to Russian President Vladimir Putin, calling him his closest comrade. While Kim, congratulating Putin on his 72nd birthday, added that relations between both countries would be raised to a new level. Relations between the Pyongyang and Moscow have deepened since the start of the Ukraine war in the move that has worried the West. Separately on Tuesday, Kim said Pyongyang would spend up steps to make his country a military superpower with nuclear weapons. And with that report, we've come to the end of tonight's Undaunted. But before we go, let's take a major look at the highlights of tonight's. Oh, well, tonight on Undaunted, we talked about equality as it should be the foundation of Ambazonian crisis. Also tonight, we told you that Indian Colonial SDO has recognized insecurity and banned circulation of boats. CDC workers protested in Tiko over unpaid salaries. Tonight, we told you that La Republic de Cameroon has launched a crack on journalists at the eve of La Republic de presidential elections. We also told you that in Africa, Zambia mine collapsed and it has claimed lives, while Harris has stepped up media presence as election day draws nearer. That's it for tonight's Undaunted. Bringing into the news on Touch Stories. On behalf of the Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in. Good night and God bless.